Welcome to another palette ranking video. My name is Rachel. If you are new here, welcome. And if you're not new here, thank you so much for coming back. This is a series I do kind of like every 4 to 6 weeks where I rank all of the newest, quote, newest palettes to my collection. These are palettes that are coming into my collection that I'm using and testing for the first time. And once I have used them enough to get my full and final thoughts on them, I put them in this style of video. It's basically, I'm reviewing the palettes for you, telling you about formula, color story, stuff like that, and I'm ranking them based on my own preference. I will say this month's ranking, there are a lot of palettes that have been kind of at the back of my drawer that I've really finally gotten to. So a lot of these palettes aren't like brand new, but now I've finally got my final thoughts on them. And so with that being said, I do feel like this group of palettes, there's not too many that I'm like super in love with. Usually with these palette rankings, I'm like, oh my gosh, this was so hard to rank these palettes because they're all so amazing. These are a batch of palettes that aren't like my perfect palette, that aren't the ones that I've been wanting to reach for over and over again. And that's why it's taken so long for me to get them in a ranking style video. I hope that makes sense. They're not bad palettes, but you're gonna see it's a lot of color story stuff. But of course, I try to let you know why I like or dislike something about a palette, and that may or may not either align with your preferences or be the opposite. So anyway, I'm gonna link all these palettes down below in the description box. I am gonna link everything that's on my face in the description box. If I did receive the palette in PR, I will tell you, and or I will put it up on the screen when I put up the swatches. The links in my description box are affiliated, which means I do earn a commission if you click on a link and make a purchase. My codes are also affiliated. And as I'm going through these palettes, I would love to know your thoughts on them. Did you try them? What are your experience with them? Because maybe we have a different experience. Or are these palettes that you're eyeing, that you're skipping on? Let me know your thoughts. I just want to say none of these palettes are bad palettes. The ranking is all based on my own personal opinion and my own personal preference. It's very rare nowadays that we come across a palette that is bad quality. It's really hardly ever that I experience that. So a lot of the ranking is based on color story and formula preferences. That's about it. But of course, I do give you a little insight into all of those things. So coming in at number 8, I have the Plume collection from DD Signature in collaboration with Makeup on Your Radar 2. I love Makeup on Your Radar 2's Instagram account. Of course, I will link their Instagram account down below, but they are like my go-to makeup news Instagram account. I use her posts a lot on my new makeup releases, and they collaborated with DD Signature for this really gorgeous collection. I love the box packaging. It's really stepped up, and DD Signature is one of my favorite brands. They are continuing to improve. Like their latest palette, their holiday palette that they've come out with is phenomenal, is really, really nice. I am actually wearing this on my eyes. I will show you what I'm wearing. I did not film this look because it was a very easy, quick look. And I actually just did eyeshadow on my upper lash line, nothing on my lower lash line. I thought it looked kind of cute. It was something a little different. This collection is made up of 4 5-pan palettes. I love a little curated collection. I love a little 5-pan, and I like that there are 4 different options. All of the 5-pan palettes I feel are curated in a way that makes sense. You are able to get, or at least I was able to get, cohesive looks just using each palette. Well, apart from one of them we'll get to in a second, but this one is really pretty. The Eloquence palette. The Elegance palette is like a blue-green. And then Extravagance is this one. So I am wearing this shimmer all over my lid right now. I did pop one of the iridescent shades on the top, like in the middle of my eyelid. This is Effervescence. This one came broken, and one of the shades ended up breaking after the fact. So there's only 3 shades in here, but these are like iridescent duochromes. They're absolutely beautiful, or iridescent multichromes, not 100% sure. Absolutely gorgeous. I will say I really love the shimmer formula from DD Signature, and these palettes have great shimmers. The mattes are good. I do think that they've improved the mattes. They are not the easiest to work with. I don't think they're hard to work with, but I definitely prefer their newer mattes that they've come out with in their like latest palette. I also prefer mattes from other brands in general, but the shimmers are really, really pretty. I love the iridescent shades. I think they're so stunning. I'm also wearing this matte like in the outer corner and into my crease as well. And I used one other matte from another palette that's coming up for like my transition shade because the mattes in this are very much mid-tone to deep, which again is like not in my preference, but that's just my preference. It's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, I mean, I think this is cute. I will say I am much more of a neutral lover. Like if a palette has neutrals in it versus a fully colorful palette, most of the time I'm going to be more drawn to the palette that has neutrals in it. This is just a full-on colorful collection, which makes sense for the theming. It's meant to be like a peacock theming, and that's great, and I love that. It's a collaboration with a creator, which I love as well. I always love seeing creator collaborations. I just really am drawn to other color stories more in this ranking, and also the matte formula in this is not my ultimate favorite, but still a very beautiful collection. I did receive that collection in PR from the brand, by the way. Coming in at number 7, I have another very colorful palette and another creator collaboration. This is Blend Bunny and Lynn's Makeup Looks on Instagram. I absolutely love the packaging on this. I think it's so beautiful. The artwork of the artist that they hired is so beautiful. I'm of course going to link the collaborator down below. She is great. She's hilarious. She brings a smile to my face every time I see her videos, and she is incredibly creative and talented, and she very much deserves a collaboration, and I think Blend Bunny is a perfect fit for her. There was also a third collaborator on this collection, which is Glisten Cosmetics, and they did like a cake liner palette, but I'm not gonna include that in this ranking, of course, because this is just eyeshadows. So this is what the palette looks like. It is fully magnetic. I think that's really fun that Blend Bunny is dipping their toes into that. I did receive this collection in PR from the brand. Again, this to me is just super colorful, which is very clearly the vision, is very clearly part of Blend Bunny's style, very clearly part of Lynn's Makeup Look style. But again, if I'm just ranking this based on my own preference, I just prefer something that has some more neutral tones. I also do feel that this is a bit jumbled. I do really like when Blend Bunny does more the gradient style, or at least, even if it's not laid out in a gradient, if there are similar tones in gradients spread throughout the palette, like their pastel palette that they have. It's not in a gradient row, but it still has like more cohesive looks, at least that I feel that I can create. So yeah, I mean, this would be a great companion palette for me, and I plan on using it as a companion palette. I plan on packing this when I go to dance competitions. I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of use out of this. I do love that it is matte heavy. I feel that the quality is the same good Blend Bunny quality that I expect. The two shimmers in here are so beautiful. Some of my favorite shimmers that they've done. This one is like an iridescent shade that's more smooth, and this one is more of like a topper sparkly shade. So beautiful. They're both shifty. So yeah, I think this is a really fun palette. I'm really glad that they're starting to dip their toes also into smaller palettes. I would love to see more smaller palettes like this. I just prefer something that's a little more of a curated color story, a little more of a themed color story rather than just kind of random bright colors. This is not a rainbow palette, right? Because there's definitely a lot of colors from the rainbow that are missing, but I do feel that it is just a straight up kind of colorful palette, and it's just not my ultimate favorite thing, but of course, it is not my vision. It is Lynn's vision and Blend Bunny's vision, and I respect that, and I appreciate that, and I totally see it through Lynn's eyes and what she does on her Instagram. So yeah, congratulations to the collaborators. It's a beautiful job, well done, but there are other things in this ranking I just prefer, that's all. And by the way, this is the last monthly ranking you're gonna see from me before I rank all of the palettes I've tried so far this year. I am scared to know. It has to be over 100 palettes that I've tried this year. It has been the year of eyeshadow palettes. So that should be coming up, I'm guessing at the end of December, once I get myself together. All right, coming in at number 6. This may seem like a little bit of a surprise based on everything I've just said. But coming in at number 6, I have the Ensley Rain Groovy Garden palette. So I have people ask me all the time, have you tried Ensley Rain? I've also had people in my comment section saying how much they love Ensley Rain. It's one of their favorite brands, and asking me if I've used the brand. And this is the only palette I've purchased from them. I bought it when it launched, whenever that was, in the summertime, I think. I have just not reached for this. It's been at the back of my drawer, and you would think that, like, based on the color story, I think the color story is absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. The mattes, everything I'm asking for. Light to deep gradient, neutrals, some like muted pops of color. I mean, so beautiful. And based on the mattes, I feel like I could get so many looks out of this, but I will say most of the shimmers in this palette, really like these four, really shift very strongly green. And then these three shift really strongly blue. So I do feel like when I put these shimmers on my lid, they kind of tend to really show blue or green. They're not really showing what they look like in the pan. And that is kind of my issue with palettes. Like, I would prefer to have a palette that has, if there's this many shimmers, maybe one multi-chrome and maybe two duochromes, and then have four just straight up metallics that I just can see what it looks like in the pan. What I see is what I get, and I could get more of a variety of looks rather than all of the green shifting shades look green on the eyes. I hope that makes sense. So I've just not really gotten the looks out of it that I've imagined I would. I do think the quality of the shadows though is so good, especially the mattes are really easy to work with, a little more on that buildable side, not overly pigmented. And a lot of the shimmers, this one is a little bit more of like a almost waxy feeling, which I don't love. A lot of brands do that. And it is a duochrome that a lot of brands do, which is like a purpley pink to a blue. I've seen it in a lot of palettes, which is fine, but just wanted to let you know. But these shimmers are very beautiful, very smooth, super sparkly. They did come out with a new palette recently, their newest neutral palette. I do feel that I want to pick that up. I did look at swatches of some creators that created videos with it, and it does look like the shimmers look different. So I just felt like a lot of the shimmers leaned really green or blue, which didn't really align with the mattes in my opinion, and I did feel like there wasn't as big of a variety of looks that I was expecting. Coming in at number 5, I have the Unearthly Cosmetics Night Terror palette. This was in their mystery box from Halloween, so if you don't want to see the inside of this palette, go ahead and skip. I always put timestamps down below. You can skip to the next palette. But I love Unearthly. It is one of my favorite brands. I feel like their eyeshadow quality, both in the mattes and the metallics, is absolutely stunning. But this, at the end of the day, is a 9-pan purple monochromatic palette. I love purples. Absolutely love purples, reach for purples all the time, really enjoy using purples, but am I gonna get a big variety of looks? Maybe not. I still really like how this is laid out. It's very matte heavy, which I appreciate. Light to deep in the mattes in terms of gradient. We have an iridescent duochrome. We have a really pretty multi-chrome that is like a blue to a purple. And then we have a stunning just standard shimmer. Love that. Yeah, it's laid out great. I love purple, but I just prefer a palette that has a little more variety, but nothing wrong with this at all. I love it. It's great. Coming in at number 4, I have the ColourPop Welcome Foolish Mortals eyeshadow palette. And this is in collaboration with the Haunted Mansion. A big part of why I really enjoy this is the nostalgia. I will be honest with you, as a kid, going to Disney World, the Haunted Mansion was my favorite ride. I would look forward to it every time we went to Disney. I was just like so excited to go to the Haunted Mansion. I also had this like VHS sing-along, Disney sing-along tape, and one of the scenes was like the characters at the Haunted Mansion. I used to literally watch it, rewind it, watch it. I used to rewatch that scene over and over again. I was born 3 days before Halloween, so I just love that time of year and everything spooky. I think as a kid growing up, it was just a very exciting time for me. So when I saw that they were launching this, I bought it, and you're not gonna believe this, I bought it last year when they launched it. Not this year, last year. And I finally just got around to using it. So this is not the newest palette to my collection, but it is new to me in the sense that I hadn't used it before currently. So this is what the color story looks like on the inside. It is very cool toned. If you know me, I really prefer warm tones. I still like wearing cool tones. I enjoy it, but if I have two palettes in front of me, a warm tone palette and a cool tone palette, I'm gonna wanna use the warm tone palette. I do appreciate the variety in here though. We've got gray looks, we've got purple looks, we've got blue looks, we've got green looks. Yeah, really nice. I do feel like a lot of these like lighter mattes are a little bit redundant. They do look pretty similar on the eyes. And I just prefer the formula of all these indie brands over ColourPop in general, both the mattes and the metallics. I think they're good. They're at a good price point, so I can't expect this, you know, $18 palette to perform the same as the Ensley Rain, which is $70-something or whatever. It's not in the same league. But I will say I don't feel like the mattes in this are like the best. I did have a hard time getting them to stick to my eyelid. They just kind of blended away a little bit. I had to really, really work hard to build it up. There are a couple of these like glitter hybrid shades that they're doing. I personally don't mind them. I don't love them. They're not like my favorite formula, but I know a lot of people really dislike them, so I just wanted to let you know that those are in there. I don't hate them. I use them. I think they look pretty on the eyes. But yeah, I mean, this palette, I think like the whole theming, super fun. Color story, really nice. Quality, it's okay. But yeah, I mean, I just prefer the other three things more, but it did beat out the other things I already talked about. Coming in at number 3, I have the Divination palette, and this is a collaboration between Blend Bunny and Robert Welch. I do think, and I was watching Betty Jean's video recently, and she was saying that she felt that maybe she would have preferred these 3 collaborators that collaborated with Blend Bunny this year, their collaborations to have been spread out a little bit so they each would have their own moment. And I agree because this is my favorite collaboration that has happened with Blend Bunny. Like of the 3, this one is my favorite, from the packaging to the color story and all of that. And I just wish this had a little more of a moment because it is stunning. This packaging is so gorgeous. It's so fun, it's so creative, and the color story is really beautiful. Now, of course, it is colorful and it is rainbow-esque, but I do feel this is done differently. It is more grungy leaning, like in person, the tones are a little more muted. I love the gradient of light to deep, and I really like how there's a light shimmer and more of a mid-tone to deep shimmer, and then we have that gradient. I think that is so fun. It's really nice. The shimmers in this are so beautiful. So, so, so beautiful. Really fun, really shiny, really sparkly. There is a multi-chrome in here as well. Again, love that there's a lot of standard shimmers and one pop of a special shimmer. The shade Crystal, oh, this is also like an iridescent duochrome down here. The shade Crystal is this like really fun white metallic. I love that there is a matte black. Yeah, this palette is done so well. Great Blend Bunny quality, of course. And yeah, I had so much use out of this. This is one I was reaching for a lot, believe it or not. I still also can create a neutral look out of this, which I did when I did my 2 looks video. I brought this with me when I went to a dance competition recently. And yeah, I've gotten so much use out of it. I've been wanting to play with it. I've been gravitating towards it. It's great quality, love the packaging. So really don't have that many complaints about it. I did receive that one in PR from Blend Bunny. Coming in at number 2, I have the Fantasy Cosmetica Harvest of Souls palette. This is one of my favorite palettes they've ever done. I think the quality is top notch. Like they're just getting better and better and better and better. Love the cover, love the theming. Look how like spooky this is. It was their Halloween release. And then this color story is definitely colorful, but again, it's curated. I feel like I can see a really good little grouping of quads where you can stick to the quads to create very cohesive looks. So it's not jumbled, it's not all over the place, it's very easy to use, very user-friendly. I love that each kind of color story has a light matte and a deep matte. So for me, that's just how I do my makeup. I'm pretty boring. I do a transition shade, I do a deepening up shade. It's just easy for me to put looks together that way. All of the shimmers in this are so beautiful. If you've never used a Fantasy Cosmetica shimmers before, they are ultra shiny, ultra sparkly, ultra in your face, wet looking, but not flaky, not chunky, just gorgeous. Just gorgeous. I'm so impressed with this quality. Even though it is really colorful, I still really am drawn to this palette. I love this little corner up here with the grungy greens. Love the grungy greens. I also love creating purple looks. So yeah, enough variety and enough user friendliness to me that I'm able to create great looks with phenomenal quality. I did receive this one in PR from the brand. And coming in at number 1, can I get a drum roll, please? I have the Nomad Polar Express palette. I mean, I love Nomad Cosmetics. I think every time they do a collection, it is clear that they put so much thought and time into everything, from the packaging to the theming to the color stories to the formulas, and this is no exception. I love this for the winter time. We have the Polar Express train with this gorgeous packaging, and I kept the unit carton. This is one of the only brands where I keep a lot of the unit cartons because I just love how they look. And then if you pull this out, the train is actually on the palette, but it still shows through at the back of the unit carton. So that is really, whoop!
A few moments later.
And here is the palette outside. Love, love, love it. And the color story is definitely a lot of neutrals with a few pops of blue. Now, you're probably wondering to yourself, Rachel, you don't like blue. So why is this number one? I'll be honest with you. Like I said, none of these palettes are like perfect for me. There have been other rankings where I've been like, all the top 5 could be my number one. I don't feel like this is even going to be in my top 10 of the year because of how much blue is in here. And that is just a preference thing. So I just want to say that off the bat, like there is absolutely nothing wrong with this palette. It's just that there are blue. There are a lot of blue, or there's like 4 blues, which is a good chunk of the palette. But this is at number 1 because of the neutral tones. Like I've created quite a few neutral looks out of this that I've really enjoyed. And I think this is fun for this time of year because I'm tending to wear more glam neutral looks, but if I want to have a pop of color, it is here as well. And the quality of the mattes are really good, easy to work with, blendable, but they show up like they do in the pan. The shimmers in this are really, really pretty. More of a standard shimmer, not overly sparkly, not overly shifty, nothing like that, although there is one multi-chrome here. And I have talked about multi-chromes from Nomad in the past where they're not like ultra emollient, ultra wet. They almost have a slightly drier formula, which I think would work well for those who have maybe suffering from creasing or have hooded lids or something like that, because they're not like gonna get all over the place. So I appreciate that, and it still gives a really pretty shift. So yeah, I love this palette, especially the neutral tones. I love that there's a matte white for my inner corner, or I can pop in a shimmer inner corner. I have more of a burgundy look. I have my 3 gradients of matte browns and a couple of different neutral shimmers for the lid, which is something that I really enjoy. So yeah, that's why it is my number 1 palette. I did also receive that palette in PR from the brand. All right, and that is it for this palette ranking. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave me a comment down below letting me know what you think about my palette ranking. Do you agree with it? Would you change something? Have you tried these palettes? Have you been eyeing them? Do you want to pick one up? Are you not interested? Are you just here for the fun of it? Whatever it is, thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye.